the 1980s, there were two main problems, as I remember as an environmentalist at that time. One was the ozone hole, and the other one was the rainforest destruction. We managed to fix the ozone hole by eliminating CFCs, but the rainforest is still burning. As a matter of fact, a large portion of the organic sugar that you eat in your cookies is coming from the rainforest. So with one environmental problem, we managed to fix it with a technological and political solution. With the other, it is still happening, it is still going on. As a matter of fact, as we speak, the rainforest is still burning, being destroyed for meat and for organic sugar, sold in Whole Foods, owned by Amazon. In other words, we're having a systemic crisis. All of these different crises and many more have shown us that we are living in a time where all the different crises are integrated. And that's why we are not saying that we are having a systems crisis. And since we're having a systems crisis, we can only solve that problem by fixing the system itself. We don't have time to simply try to make quick fixes, to put out a fire over here and another fire over there. We need to look at the whole system. If we think in terms of a human body as a holistic system and as an ecology, we have chronic issues, we have acute issues, and we have systemic issues. The planet right now is in the interface between severe chronic issues and systemic issues, and we need to solve those. So what is systems change? Systems change is to address the root causes of problems which are often unimaginable and embedded in networks of cause and effect. In networks of cause and effect. So in other words, when we do system change, we need to embrace complexity and not just fix problems. We are so used to trying to fix problems, we need to embrace complexity and move through the problems in complex systems. We have theory failure. We think we have a market problem. We don't really have a market problem. We have a theory that is trying to fix or change and manipulate the market, because the market is actually rather simple. The market is the exchange of goods, buying and selling. It's not that complicated. But neoliberalism has created havoc on the planet and the economic system and the environmental system. Challenge number 2, sustainable development. Sustainable development is to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. In 1987, the Gro Harlem Brundtland Commission in the United Nations came up with this formula. It's a beautiful formula. I totally agree. Do you agree? It's a nice statement. So what's the problem? What's the problem with this statement? What? Not what?
We don't do it.
We don't do it, then why don't we do it?
What kind of development?
What kind of development? Because we are using it within the framework of capitalism and the neoliberal system. That's why. So we can come up with a nice theory, a nice phrase. Same thing with systems change. We can say we want systems change, but if we use systems change within an economy that doesn't fit with reality, we are going to get into trouble. And that's what has happened with sustainable development. Some writers in the United States, James Hillman, he came up with a book that was called, "We have had psychotherapy for 100 years and everything is, and the planet is just getting worse." And we could say the same thing. We have had sustainable development for the last 35, 40 years, but things are just getting worse. Green sustainable capitalism, a solution or a delusion? To me, it has become, unfortunately, mostly a delusion. Green capitalism is, in some sense, an oxymoron. It's a contradiction. Because we're trying to create something green within a system, within a defunct economic system that will never make the planet green. Worldview precedes policy change and deeper systems change. So, in other words, if we want to change the system, if we want to change, we first need a philosophy. E.F. Schumacher said that every economy has an underlying philosophy, and the philosophy of capitalism is basically selfishness, that human beings are basically selfish, and that if I produce something with my selfish needs and my selfish desires, it will somehow benefit others. It's a simple premise. And it is true to some extent. We need to preserve our own life, we need to take care of ourselves, but we also live in a society. We need to cooperate, we are social beings, and so our economy needs to have these two principles together in balance. That is very, very important. Old worldview, nature has utility value only. This is the capitalist worldview, and it is also the Marxist worldview in many ways. Because they're both based on we could say, a materialistic philosophy of life, that the earth is valuable because it is utilitarian. When we turn a spade and turn the soil over, it becomes valuable. If we don't, it is useless. This worldview caused the desacralization of the planet, of the earth, because before then human beings thought of the earth as sacred. But this utilitarian worldview desacralized the world. It made economics the dominant worldview and nature a secondary or utilitarian product. And capitalism has that worldview, and so therefore green capitalism is never going to work. Because of this understanding, this limited understanding of how the world works and how nature works. So what we need to do, we need to have a different worldview where nature has both existential value and utility value. Because sometimes, not just sometimes, most of the time, a forest is more valuable as a forest than as timber. We need to have the ability as a society to say, this forest is more important if it is a forest than we turn it into planks for houses. So this combination of existential value and utility value needs to be built into our economic system. This is what I would call the sacred worldview, but also a utilitarian worldview in which we can build an economy based on nature, because without nature we will never have an economy, we won't have an economy. So nature needs to be the largest horizon, so to speak. Human beings, and we human beings, we create a society, a community, and the economy is simply an extension of society and of the community. Not the other way around. This understanding creates a different kind of economy. The old world we recycle and we have carbon offsets. So, we need a great new left-green transformation. In other words, we need a new Green Deal. New Green Deal. So what we need to do, rather than creating a European Union that is mainly for the benefit of the rich countries, we need to create regional, local economies and develop them, and then in a natural way have them grow together and build a larger union or a confederation of regional, local economies, rather than a top-down system that we have now. It needs to come from the grassroots up. Scandinavia, for example, would be a perfect area to develop such an, I'm just using that as an example. The British Isles, all the British Isles could be a bioregional economy. So this is something that it's not something, I don't think it's just an idea. I think this is bound to happen because what we have now is an unnatural system. Naomi Klein said this, and I think it's a timely message. We live in a time of overlapping crisis, and we need to connect the dots because we don't have time to solve each crisis sequentially. We need a movement that addresses all of them. And that's really what Future Planet is all about. So do you want to be part of this system change movement?
Yes.
All right. Very good.